for my background, I grew up in India for most part. I got my undergraduate degree at IIT at Bombay in India. I then came to Stanford University to get my master's in computer science. I started my current company, Infoaxe, very shortly after that. So we started Infoaxe, and I graduated from Stanford University with a master's degree in mid 2007, and I have been doing Infoaxe full time since early 2008, which is when we raised angel funding for our company.
Yeah.
We raised about $1 million from Draper Fisher Jurvetson, from Labrador Ventures, from an angel group in the Bay Area called the Band of Angels, and also from Amidzat Partners. What our company does is we are a search engine for your browsing history. So what this means is that we completely remove the need for you to bookmark any page whatsoever. You could view a certain cool maybe technical report, a research paper, a cool video, whatever, on one computer, maybe on your work computer. You can come back at home and you can easily find it with our service, because our service enables you to record every page that you've browsed on the web and makes it very easily searchable. And interestingly, not only do we have the details of what people browse for, we also make use of the time people spend on different pages. In fact, we factor that already in our search ranking, so that if there are, maybe for example, you always hit the Siam Royal in Palo Alto, that is what you visit more. You don't hit the one in Mountain View as much, but maybe you accidentally clicked on that at some point and immediately hit the back button. We use all such information to factor in the fact that such things should not be ranked as highly. It's kind of funny, really. Typically you're supposed to say that from the time I was born or something like that, I always wanted to become an entrepreneur. With me, that was not so much the case. I think around the time when I was getting my undergraduate degree at IIT Bombay and so on, I did have a sense that to make a big impact, being an entrepreneur is the way by which your potential to make a huge impact is really there. And that apart, I think it also had something to do with a lot of factors nicely coming in together. So I had done some research on web search and data mining. I had already published a bunch of papers in my undergraduate degree itself. So the normal route would have been to go to a top school, get your PhD and that sort of thing, which is why I pretty much came to Stanford in the first place.
Sure.
But I guess that is where I met my now business partner and friend, Jonathan Siddharth. So he also had a fairly similar background. He had published a bunch of papers in search and data mining. And I guess Stanford has this very unique entrepreneurial culture that a lot of top US schools do not have. Like right across the Bay, for example, there is Berkeley, which I think is technically just as strong. Their research and so on is just as good. But Stanford has this extra edge, which is that pretty much everyone there is thinking about how best to build the next big company with that research, rather than turn into a great researcher. Right? So I guess hanging around in this environment, bouncing a lot of ideas off. So Jonathan was already a good friend of mine. He was a classmate at Stanford. We bounced off ideas. And in large part, this started as a real life problem for us. So we were, we did indeed browse pages on different computers and different browsers. And we thought it was very cumbersome. Let's think of it, right? We browse a lot of pages in the web. Those are like footprints you leave in the sand, but those all get erased, right? That is such valuable data. It is not only data that is very valuable to you. When used carefully in an anonymized form, that could be useful to the whole world, because that all gives you a very good handle on what pages are buzzing, what content is actually good versus being merely spammy and having gamed the search engines using SEO, that sort of thing. So we felt that this data is really powerful, and that at least for starters we could do much better than services like Delicious that help you manage your bookmarks across different computers. We felt that bookmarking and tagging was too much work. And in fact, one paper from our research group at Stanford essentially showed that 80% of the time, the tags people assign to web pages are redundant, given the text in the web page.
Yeah.
So tags may be good for things like videos or images where there's no other associated text. But when you already have a lot of rich text in there, it is a shame to not put it to good use.
Okay.
So this was a real life problem for us, and we thought, I mean, we had the background in search and data mining to go out there and solve it.
Yeah.
So we had already started working on this idea while at Stanford. I guess when we were close to graduating, that's when we started meeting with investors and things like that. We started thinking about it much more from a business standpoint, because ultimately that is what you need to make it succeed. It's just not enough for the idea to be there, or it's not enough to have a good technology.
No.
So what we really liked about this was the platform of the web browsing history data and the enormous number of things that it allowed us to do on top of that, which were very highly defensible against other services that try to offer similar things.
Sure.
For example, we currently have a sharing functionality which allows people to broadcast their browsing on certain sites. So for example, I can broadcast every page I browse on, say, YouTube, on TechCrunch, on VentureBeat, maybe on the New York Times. I mean, these are perfectly safe sites. I'm happy letting my friends know what I browse here, and my friends can follow me in a manner similar to Facebook or Twitter. So it's like, this allows you to apply a social filter to your reading on the web, which is indeed how it is becoming more and more. In fact, I think I've stopped reading newspapers and all. I get everything from Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. The recommendations of your friends, essentially, right? What they're reading.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's best.
And in fact, we have also done some experiments with the aggregate data, and we found that searching the fresh and aggregate. I mean, now we have a lot of users, and our users automatically save about 20 million unique web pages every day with our service.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is really large scale if you come to think of it. And what this gives us is, this gives us a very nice handle on what pages are buzzing today. So we in fact did some experiments comparing ourselves to Google on queries where freshness really matters. So sometime back, for example, we found that when we search for something like iPhone review, right, on Google, Google often tends to return reviews of older iPhones, pages that were popular in the past, that scored well based on most traditional metrics of relevance. It had a lot of page rank, a lot of inlinks, a lot of things pointing at it. But the point is that what it did not capture was the time essence of it. It did not capture the fact that was good in the past, it's no longer good. However, with Infoaxe, using the attention data of what people were actually browsing today, what they are browsing in the last 1 or 2 weeks, this was very valuable and helped us to do better than Google in many of these queries.
Sure.
Yeah. But of course, I mean, Google is admittedly patching up part of this with their Twitter integrations and things like that. But I mean, what this I think just went on to show is that we are sitting on a goldmine of data on which a ton of things can be done. We just have to pick and choose our battles.
Sure. Yeah. Well, talking about those, what's then your business model, or how do you develop a business model for that business? Because you thought about it when you started it.
Right. So, so as of now, our company is profitable, in fact, and our revenues for most part come from search advertising. We get a lot of search queries of people browsing, searching their browsing history with Infoaxe. But in addition to this, we think we can do significantly better, and the reason for this is that compared to other services that do vanilla search monetization, we can be much more personalized about it. Like maybe based on your browsing history, we know that you are a Mac person and not a PC person, and the next time you search for laptops, it makes much more sense to show you ads of just Apple products, for example. Whereas maybe there's someone else that's into ThinkPads and you want to show them just ThinkPad ads. So in this manner, there's a lot of there's ample opportunity for personalization. There are also opportunities with retargeting and things like that. Like you already see. I don't know if you have had experiences like this, for example, but I went and browsed a jacket on Nextag, and thereafter the next few times I went to Facebook or a few other sites, I got shown the very same ad, and I actually went on to purchase it as a result of that, being bombarded with the same ad multiple times. And so with Infoaxe again, because we know your whole browsing history, we can do a lot of smart things like buying ad space on multiple sites.
Sure.
And currently they perhaps show fairly crappy and untargeted ads over there,
Yeah.
but we can show much more targeted ads in that very same ad space, and consequently have very nice arbitrage opportunities there. I mean, we have certainly learned a great deal along the way. There's no question about it. I guess, let's see. In fact, I saw this very nicely being put in a recent startup conference,
Yeah.
wherein the point they made was that startups invariably have to keep reevaluating what they do and things like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, and cheap tests are really important. I mean, I mean, if you have a hypothesis that something is going to be effective and things like that, the more cheap and efficient the tests you can design,
Yeah.
or if you can launch with a very minimal set of features to see how that is doing and things like that, that is something I would very strongly advise.
Yeah.
Like for example, initially one mistake we made was that we got a little bit into what is often called feature creep.
Yeah.
Wherein you keep on thinking, no, I have to also build this feature, it'll get even better. If I build this, it'll get even better. People will totally love us.
Yeah.
And being very paranoid about things like first impression and things like that.
Yeah.
So suppose you're doing something like B2B or something like that, and you're talking to these really big companies,
Yeah.
perhaps things like first impression matter much more.
Yeah.
But when you're building a consumer internet company, I think it is much more important. I mean, whatever you do, you're never going to get it right on the first attempt.
No.
So it's always a good idea that you launch with something that's reasonable and with the minimal set of features that you think is core to your business.
Yeah.
And iterate a great deal based on user feedback. I mean, only after you put it out there, you realize what is important and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's,
And that apart, actually, there's another thing we have done fairly well, I think, compared to a lot of companies.
yeah.
Which in turn again plays into this idea that ultimately you want to give yourself the opportunity to do the maximum number of pivots. I mean, the business that has the opportunity to try the maximum number of different things successfully before running out of money, that's the business that's most likely to succeed.
Yeah.
So for this, of course, you need to do cheap tests, you need to launch fast, that is very important. But that apart, fiscal conservativeness is something I would strongly advise. I mean, prior to like when we were fundraising and things like that, the prevailing wisdom